Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this month's uh, uh, webinar, Scaling Your Business, Scaling Your Credit Repair Business, everything dealing with systems pricing and expansion strategies, as well as services as well. Let's go ahead, Jasmine, and let's wait until 5 minutes past the hour, and we'll start in about 3 to 4 minutes. Thank you. So let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to Scaling Your Credit Repair Business. We'll be discussing pricing, systems, expansion strategies, everything you need to know about how to create your pricing, what products to carry, how to expand, and managing SOPs to be able to do that and understand what type of automation you need in place so that you can be more profitable. You know, I get a question almost all the time from some credit repair companies that have been in the space for quite some time, and they're small mom and pop shops, and they always ask me this question: is, have you noticed that, you know, as your business grows, or with other CEOs, their business grows, have you gotten are you achieving more profitability and not just growth? And that's a fair question, right? And that's what we're going to be addressing in this call: how to scale your business, but scale it only when it has grown to a sufficient level, whereby it has a certain number of things in place for it to scale. The worst thing that you can do is want to scale your business without growing it properly, where you can equate your profitability at the right level. And that's what this fundamentally this webinar is about today. Let's go ahead and you can read this legal disclaimer. I'll wait for a second. Let's move on here. So what are we going to be discussing? What you're going to be learning today? First of all, how to price, your pricing structures, right? Many of you have asked me, how do I make more money? And it's not just one thing, it's a series of things. But structuring and understanding pricing is something you need to understand. Not just, you know, how many plans to have, or how many models to adopt, or other ancillary products, right? But knowing what your cost of goods sold is, that's necessary, right? And we'll be discussing that today. Having standard operating procedures in place, right? And in order for you to scale your business, you have to replicate your business. And for you to replicate your business, you have to automate and systematize your business if you're not automating through systems, right? So you need SOPs, you need process control. For example of that, how to, you know, process control for onboarding, dispute process workflows, client communication workflows, things of that nature. You need to be able as an owner, right? Which is one of the most difficult things. Is I was talking to a CRO that was visiting us yesterday, and her biggest problem was how to get rid of all of this administrative work that she had. And I said, all you need is to have the appropriate processes in place, and then take the most, one second. Take the most appropriate course of action to document those processes, and then look at the software that you need, or the pieces of software that you need to go ahead and automate those processes. And eventually she wasn't a user of ScoreCEO. She became a user of ScoreCEO yesterday, and went ahead and started automating all of her processes. And she figured out that she couldn't handle more customers because she wasn't preparing herself to do so. She was giving excellent service, had great pricing, but it wasn't a science. So she couldn't grow it and therefore scale it. So I'm happy to see she's on her way there. And how do we diversify our business? You know, with customers and AI, it's easy for them to do a lot more that they couldn't do before with the help of AI. Well, we all know that AI isn't perfect, but it's getting better and better every day. And as that continues to happen, we need to have more products that diversify our revenue. And we'll be discussing how to do that. And more importantly, how to expand once you've got everything in place, what your strategy should be to go ahead and expand and why. And we'll talk about areas of growth and expansion that don't cost you any money to do so with regards to licensing and bonding. And we'll give you some examples of that on this call. What's the reality of the credit repair industry, right? The credit repair industry is growing. Don't think that it's not. We have more credit files out there, and we have more errors out there because the system has fundamentally not changed, right? The reporting of it, the policing of it, the scrutiny of it, the legality of it fundamentally has not changed. As a matter of fact, as we had a webinar last year that there was an overturn of a federal ruling where now medical collections were going to start to be included again. You know, I haven't seen personally any of that. If any of you have any of those entries back in your credit reports, let us know. But if it hasn't happened, it's about to happen. So this is something that has changed, but fundamentally everything else is pretty much the same. The competition is growing because there are a lot other products that are trying to encroach upon the credit repair industry. So you have TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian developing products that eat away at the ancillary services that you had to go ahead and give your customers, like credit educational services, now are automated through AI and machine learning, that, you know, and they're offering engines to do that for customers as part of their credit monitoring offers. Some of your credit monitoring services have predictors of score based on elimination or deletion or repair of certain items, like for some of you that have Spark Credit, right? Things of that nature. We have other products that have subscription managers, and those subscription managers have nothing to do with credit repair, but all of us know how difficult it is for consumers to go ahead and cancel their subscription services from one central location. That's something that maybe that can keep customers on your credit monitoring services longer, and we have credit monitoring services that have that, right? We have DIY products as well that are coming out there that read your credit report and help you do your as a consumer do your own credit repair. So these services are encroaching upon traditional credit repair services in the industry, and we have to be a bit more creative by not only expanding our markets but growing our product offers, and we'll discuss some of that as well. We want to go on beyond just simply doing credit repair, right? We also want to be able to grow our businesses by establishing a long-term type of a business that actually predict how we're going to do through strong process, scalable system, and efficient operations, right? That's the state of the credit repair industry right now, and we have to change. If you are a one-trick pony and all you're offering is the same credit repair services that you were offering 5 to 10 years ago, this is definitely a webinar you want to pay attention to. Now, why do most credit repair businesses plateau? Great point, right? Well, fundamentally, if you think about it, if you have 50 customers, right, and you spend between pitching the product, closing the customers, adding them into whatever system or manual process you have, then disputing them on a monthly basis. Some of you are still using credit reports from freecreditreport.com or things, something like that, right? I'm not using proactive credit repair or proxy pulls through credit monitoring, right? If you're doing any of that, those are what we call manual processes, right? So you'll probably spend on a customer anywhere between 3 to 5 hours a month, if not more. So if you're spending 3 to 5 hours a month, how many customers can you handle every month? Well, if you've closed 50 customers in your first month Your second month, you're probably going to close a lot less because most of your time is going to be spent on disputing and updating your customer files. If you don't have any automation, any process control, or any software behind it. So attrition becomes the business creep is going to create attrition in your closing ratios, and therefore your business starts growing from inception or as soon as you have a great month and you outpace yourself. So you want to be in a place where you close customers in 5 to 15 minutes. You process customers in 5 to 15 minutes, or in no minutes at all by outsourcing some of that or delegating that to other people, diversifying your sales processes, right? By having appointment setters and having the closers on another call. All of these things lead to delegation as well. So that's a problem. Also, pricing structures are just not there. I still see some of our customers and other customers out there in the industry that have one pricing model. That's it, one pricing model. The problem with that, especially if it's a monthly model, is that you'll have large and small and thin files that you'll be working on, right? That will basically be paying the same amount of money, and you'll be incurring in more work on the ones that require more work and less work on the ones that don't, and you'll be averaging out profitability. How about we predict profitability by having multiple revenue subscription, some multiple payment models that can maximize your revenue as files get more complex. That's something that we'll be talking about today, and that is a reason why, one of the biggest reasons why customers also plateau their businesses. Our CROs do. If you have no systems in place, just adding more customers won't help you. Yes, it will in the short term, but if you don't have processes that are consistently being looked at by you, which is where you should be working on your business, not in your business, you won't be able to create that organic or sustainable growth and you won't be able to expand that business either. So these are the three major things that cause a plateau in your business if you're there and you ask yourself, why is my business growing but I'm making less money, or why is it growing and I just can't get past the threshold X, right, in number of clients under management. Let's discuss some key terms. What's the difference between growth and scaling your business? There's two different things, right? When you grow your business, you're just adding more leads and clients, right? Which will eventually add more clients to your business. But at a certain level, if you're not automated within your processes enough, including the systems at hand and the software that you have, you won't be able to scale that business. So it's one thing to go ahead and understand how to convert the customer, acquire the customer, convert the customer, but also provide the onboarding of that customer and the service. But you also need to do that in a way that is streamlined, and your investment in time, what I call touches, is minimized without sacrificing quality of service. And that will cause less customers to churn. That means they won't abandon your service before they should. They'll stay on longer. You'll close more customers as an individual, and you'll understand what the thresholds and the KPIs for sales and lead acquisitions are, so that you can manage salespeople or appointment setters that you'll hire in the future. So you've got to grow the business, not only just with more clients, but with the appropriate processes that accompany that and document them, and more importantly, automate as many of them as you can, so that then you can go ahead and rinse, what I call rinse and repeat. Do what you do well in, let's say, Philadelphia, PA, and then go ahead and expand to all of PA, and then go ahead and expand to New Jersey and New York, and do it in an orderly manner so that you can understand how to also create processes in scale as well. That's the only thing that's the only way you're going to grow your business, so that you consistently maximize your profitability and grow your business while scaling it at the same time. So let's look at a four-part process for scaling your business, right? We're sorry about that. we're going to look at pricing, SOPs are, and why you need to have them in place. We're going to understand how to delegate and how to use outsourcing in different areas of your business. And finally, what products to diversify into and you should be offering today, and then how to implement a successful expansion strategy after you've maximized pricing structure, SOP processes, creation and automation, and delegating and outsourcing and diversifying. Then we talk about expanding the business. Normally, I have CROs that when they start in the space, I wanna have a national business, and so does everybody else. Unfortunately, it takes a lot. It takes a village to go ahead and do that. You have to create a business that you can replicate first before you can move on. And there's a few things that you need to understand first before you do that. Let's start with pricing structures, right? How many of you on this call, right, have one pricing tier or two pricing tier models? If you do, that's okay. And it's probably the way you've achieved success till today. But you've got to give options to your customers. Not only do you want to give options to your customers, you have to understand in the different pricing structures that you have, it's not about what you're going to put into the description of that service. It's what that service is going to cost you. For example, if your service is a monthly service, you can't charge customers for results. So all you're really charging the customer to do is to produce a great quality dispute and to send it every 30 to 32 days, every month for that consumer consistently on behalf of the CRO, right? That's all you can do as a processor. As a CRO, that's what you're giving your customers. So you have to understand what that cost is. So how many letters is that? If I deploy a strategy, how many am I deploying direct to creditor letters, regulatory disputes, as well as CRA disputes? If I'm doing CRA disputes, am I doing multiple different strategies like multiple line, multiple letter CRA disputes, multiple line, multiple letter direct to creditor disputes, implementing more critical or technical disputes where you incorporate a technical factual dispute process into a Metro 2 report type of dispute. That sort of the things that you're doing today, some of them require more time, more effort, and some of them are not automated, and your software platforms or your existing platforms don't support that. You want to understand what that cost of it is. And the cost of acquisition, your cost of acquisition is what it costs to acquire a lead, but you also need to know what it costs to service the customer. It's 3 letters, it's a stamp, it's the person that I'm paying to do that, it's the processor that I'm outsourcing to. All of those costs need to be included there. You have to understand that. Inside of Scoreway University, we have a cost of goods sold and pricing calculator. If anybody needs something like that, you can go ahead into Scoreway University and just download it. You can play with cost and with pricing and additional services and see how much profit you can make. So we built that out for you a long time ago. I think it was in 2015 or 16 for the credit repair summits, but fundamentally that structure has not changed. You also want to offer not only different plans, right? So if we look at, if we look, and I'll probably show you in a minute, right? But if we look at sites of some of our customers, excuse me, you'll be able to see that some of them have 3 plans: the good, the better, and the best. That's good. That's good. That shows some versatility, but it's really structured for just monthly payment model plans. I think that, and I believe strongly that consumers want versatility. Not all consumers are built the same, and some of them won't trust credit repair companies from inception, and they might not want to expose themselves to paying for services that are not correlated to a result. So why not offer a pay-per-delete option as well as 3 monthly offers? This will eliminate your opportunity of objection. If there's a customer that doesn't want to do that, you can explain what the differences are and what the cost implications are as well. So that security of doing that, as we know, on pay-per-delete costs 3 to 5 times more. Your credit, the consumer credit repairs cost 3 to 5 times more, at 3x to 5x the cost of a similar monthly credit repair structure. But the reality is that the burden is on the customer to pay for those results when achieved. And in credit repair, we get bursts of results. We get a bunch of items deleted, then there may be a few items validated, repaired, or really not making the derogatory non-negative item, but they updated things, especially when you're doing technical factual dispute processing. So you may want to incorporate that. So you get paid, you can get paid for customers that don't trust a monthly service, whether they get the results or not, or you tie that monthly service to actual performance. So I've said this before in the past for a lot of you that have been on my previous webinars, and I think that a way to move so that you eliminate objections is to offer both structures. The problem is that customers will change from monthly to pay-per-delete and pay-per-delete back to monthly as they see fit. And you can do that as well, and you have to have a path to do that, but more importantly, that can complicate your building tremendously. You have to have a software platform that lets you do that. ScoreCEO lets you do that, by the way. So I believe that if you offer both monthly and pay-per-delete, you'll have less attrition in closing customers, and you'll have customers on longer because you can jump them from one platform to the other. If one becomes either more expensive or they're not receiving the appropriate results, you can change them from one plan to the next. The problem is that your software has to support that. Now, not only should you have not be a one-trick pony, as I say, with just one or two pricing models. You want to have multiple pricing models, but pricing structures for subscription plans. But you also want to incorporate different payment models as well, is what I'm saying. Tiered pricing plans and payment models, right? And you want to offer different service levels, subscriptions, multiple subscription pricing, different payment models. You can use pay per performance. You can use a hybrid model. ScoreCEO supports all of those. If you're not, you have to build into your process, and you'll have to manually do that, right? An example of that is that you can see that a customer, right, you may offer a basic plan, right? Let's call it the basic plan, just CRA disputes. While a premium plan in a monthly service could include creditor or regulatory disputes. And you can have different levels of that to be more or less aggressive, because that's what's costing you money. If you have to send 3 letters versus sending 10 letters versus sending 20 letters every round, there's a definite difference in performance and in cost as well, because that's what actually gives you what I call consistency and more opportunities to dispute. You're not disputing in less time because they'll be considered frivolous, but you can dispute different accounts to different credit reporting agencies how you see fit. Just because they get 5 letters disputing 15 items doesn't mean you can't send those different 5 letters, as long as you don't repeat the dispute items in there, because every item could be disputed. But that creates 3 different interactions and 3 different opportunities. That's a strategy that you could use, right? But that would cost more. That's why understanding your cost of goods sold and then developing your pricing based on your cost of goods sold, and then adding to that pay-per performance or pay-per-delete models is the best thing to do. When you structure things this way, your closing ratios are going to maximize, because if the customer feels uncomfortable because he's at risk, he will consider closing on a pay-per-performance model. If the pay-per-performance estimates are too great for them, well, then they may consider a monthly recurring revenue model. So it minimizes your opportunity to have objections by you having an answer for those objections proactively, not reactively. Maximizing all of your profitability if you understand your COGS, right? Your cost of goods sold, and you align it so that your higher priced products increment and in a way that you can increase your profitability, because you'll have less customers doing that. They're paying a premium. There's nothing different in any service business. They all work the same, including credit repair in that respect. Let's look at two customers, right? If you got one customer that has just a few minor collections and another customer that has multiple negative accounts across all three credit bureaus, your second client is probably going to be you're probably going to have to do more things to get him more results. If you're charging one plan, you only have one plan, that means one with a few things on there and another with 15 or 20 things on there. You're going to have to start doing the things that we mentioned earlier and spend more time on that customer, which lets you, it's going to dig into if you're a one-man shop, that's going to dig into your time to go ahead and market and close leads that you're attracting in your business. So that's something you need to distinguish. That's the important thing here. It's not just using subscription, just having different tiered subscription models or monthly revenue models. You want to incorporate other pricing models as well, so you abandon less as well. So tiering the pricing structure based on your COGS is absolutely the way to go. Let's talk about SOPs. If you're not documenting your SOPs while you're building your business and you're just a one-man show and you've been there for a year or two and you're just doing the same thing you did 2 or 3 years ago, ask yourself, have you documented those processes so you can go ahead and start training other people? You want to be able to do that and do it in a way that you can replicate what you already know, so that you can train other people to do the same thing that you do. And you can evaluate them based on the processes that you've trained them by. If you don't have any of that, you just go out there and start hiring people, you're going to be inconsistently managing those employees or subcontractors or virtual assistants. And you're going to be holding them accountable to things that they probably don't dominate, and therefore will cause your business to be erratic. You'll have some employees and VAs that'll do great, or contractors that fill in the blanks. Those are the great ones, but those are 1 in 100. You want to be able to develop everyone to the middle, so that you can provide a consistent marketing service, a consistent sales service, a consistent dispute service, and a consistent customer satisfaction environment, while embraced in a legally compliant framework in the credit repair space. Without SOPs, that's not happening. You need to start documenting, write it out, and then take those SOPs and start automating them. If they're not, start minimizing them. When you start documenting things, you're going to start seeing that you've been doing things for 2 to 3 years, and then when you look at them 2 or 3 years later, there's things that you really don't need to do anymore. But you were just doing that out of habit. And if you've hired people in the interim without documenting them, or while documenting them without reviewing your processes and streamlining them, you're probably paying employees or contractors or VAs to do this, to make the same errors over and over and over again from a process perspective. That's what takes you from touching a customer for about 30 minutes a month, okay, to 3 to 5 hours a month. And that's what takes you to being more profitable singularly, and as you grow your business internally through process control and delegation. All right, so reducing errors and things of that nature are going to happen because documentation is going to be there. You're going to be selling, and you're going to be able to test things, right? Especially with a sales pitch. A lot of you have websites, and on your websites, you'll have some of your web developers saying, hey, maybe it's a good idea to A/B split test this. What that's basically saying is, let me go ahead and see what works. Does the red color work and increase conversions versus the blue color, or this verbiage versus that verbiage, but both have to be measured substantially. There has to be a process control and a measurement and of some sort, right? So if you don't have your processes in place, you won't have KPIs, and if you don't have KPIs or key performance indicators, you won't be able to tweak things. And either you're going to start changing things just to change them with no documentation or no KPIs in place, and what you'll end up doing is spending a lot of time working for your business and not having the business work for you. Okay, onboarding customers. That's where you establish expectations. You know, as an example, if I asked you, and I've done this with a lot of you on this call and a lot of other CROs, and I've asked them, what's your onboarding process? And when they go ahead and it's, well, we basically close the customer and then we get them on a call, explain to them, we'll send them emails every month, and that's it. Then we'll let them know through an email, or we'll call them and update them. But they're doing all of that and all the coordination almost manually. They have automated nothing. And when you go into the specifics and you listen to the conversations of one salesperson to another, what they're saying are vastly different. And that's something that you can decrease with process control. That's why it matters. Let's look at an example SOP here. Something that's very similar in most businesses. A lead is generated, right? Either via the web or some sort of system, right? A plan is pre-selected if it was ScoreCEO. A lead is auto-assigned to a sales rep. If you don't have round robining or auto-assigning features for your sales personnel, well, somebody's going to have to assign that. That's a click. A click, what I call click charges within your business, and is going to start incrementing your cost of goods sold, right? Because you have to touch that customer manually. There's not enough back-end automation. And it may be coming from a referral source, and you'll have to either build secondary systems. If your system doesn't have it, you'll have to tie that partner back to and report to that consumer back to the partner or affiliate. More importantly, when that partner or affiliate wants to review and see what has happened to all those leads I've sent ABC Credit Repair. Well, you know, they're not going to be able to manage that accordingly if you don't have process control or you don't have systems in place to manage that. They have to follow a TSR process, right? So that the lead has to go through that process, especially if you're trying to play by the rules with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right? If not, you probably won't be able to charge your customer for 6 months after you've already provided the service. That's a problem. So the best way to stay away from that is to comply with TSR. And you have to have processes, workflows, string together Zapier accounts or ScoreCEO to be able to do that. The lead needs to then schedule a consultation call with your company, and that sales provider, that lead needs to be managed by somebody, right? So there has to be some sort of continuity between the salesperson and that lead, so that lead is reaching out and emailing and texting these potential customers. At a certain time, they've got to assist to that consultation call and initiate the sales call, discuss the credit audit. Do they have to go in and interpret that by looking at it and have that be different and running the risk of not having a standardized format and just pay attention to other particular things that your standardized format is not accounting for? Or do they have to reinvent the wheel every single time? They have to discuss that credit audit. In ScoreCEO, you can produce a credit audit, send it to a customer without him or a lead, so that they can get a written report. And then you can elaborate on that and complete the consultation and explain what services you have. And then they can probably change the pre-selected plan or try or choose a different payment model plan. And then you can complete that call, close that customer, and schedule a consultation payment, and probably schedule some monthly recurring payments if they've chosen a monthly recurring revenue plan, right? If they've chosen a pay per performance plan, have you been able to go through a good faith estimate and analyze different scenarios and compare pay per performance estimates to monthly so that they can make a decision and they can choose systematically? ScoreCEO supports all of that. I know a lot of you haven't seen that, but you can use those services within ScoreCEO. They're native to our platform. And then you move to the process workflow, right? And which is dispute basically monthly. And we'll go over another process like that. If you're using something that isn't automating all of this, you probably need to really reevaluate what you're doing right now, because it will not enable you to scale, and because you won't be able to maximize your growth. We're talking about maximizing your growth opportunities by maximizing your time and increasing your profitability, and then doing that through the delegated personnel that you have, either, like I said, either employees, contractors, or virtual assistants. If you have any questions, go ahead and start asking these questions. And Jasmine, you can interrupt me at any point in time if we have any questions that are there. Do we have any questions? Because I'm not looking at that screen up until this point.
No, not yet.
Awesome. So let's look at a sample dispute processing workflow, right? Check to see if the client paid for service, right? That's either a first round or any other round customer, right? Import the client's credit report. Identify accounts that require disputes. Create dispute reasons and generate letters, some of them with attached proof of ID, proof of social, and proof of address, right? At a minimum. And then, the next step is somebody's got to print stuff, envelopes, weigh letters, apply stamps, log the documents, store them somewhere, right, that are sent to the credit bureaus, creditors, or regulatory agencies on a monthly basis, right? Then send the client or referral partner a monthly summary progress report via email, right? Wait 30 days. This is a pretty common dispute process workflow. But if this isn't all automated in your system or in whatever you're doing right now, you need to automate it so that you can grow and then scale. You can grow your business internally in your current marketplace, maximize their time, increase their opportunities so that they have more time for salespeople to attend to leads, for appointment setters to do more calls, for dispute processors to dispute more files per month, so that you can become more profitable. And once you're at a point where you're comfortable with your growth, then you scale. And you have to wait 30 days. 30 days, right? And start all over again. You go right back to step one and you do it all over again. If the customer paid, then you continue. And this is a recurring process, right? If this is not automated, and any of this is not automated in some way, those are the processes that you need to look at and start automating today so that you can experience a growth before you can go ahead and experience expansion. Let's look at another very common SOP. All right, payment failed. What happens when your payment fails? A consumer's payment fails to you, right? If the payment, you rerun that payment of the sales invoice, right? If it's a consultation that was scheduled to be taken in 7 days or 5 days or 3 days, whatever is commensurate to the state that you're in, well, you have to see if it's not successful. You've got to hold that customer. How do you put that customer on hold? Does that create? Is that just a simple click, like a lot of you say? Well, that should not be a simple click. That should be automatic, because between the time that somebody clicks the workflow that says that this customer is on hold because he hasn't paid, your processor, if you have a processor that isn't you, could probably have already disputed that customer, right? So when the right hand is not talking to the left and systems are not automated and processes are not synchronized, that's what can happen. You can provide the service without charging for it, without knowing you did. and incurring more wasted time, which doesn't effectively attribute to growth internally, right? It interrupts the dispute process, right? It initiates an accounts receivable process. Now you have to start following up with that customer. So if you're not automatically doing that and waiting for that payment to happen automatically, there's two things that are happening: retrying the payment and reinforming the customer that the lack of payment is could escalate a lack of service for them, right? That has to be an automated process, right? And then do that, let's say 3 times with 3 days between, right? If you're not doing that automatically, that means you're doing that in a manual process, and every customer that you're doing that with is taking more and more time, depending on how many times they don't pay you. I see when I ask CROs, what is your recovery rate? A lot of them say, oh, we recover about 90% of our receivables. And then when I ask them how they're measuring that, they're only measuring the 90% of the customers that actually pay, but the ones that don't pay, they're not including them. Well, that's not a fair metric. If it's 90% of that, it's probably about 50 or 60% of your accounts, if you really look at it mathematically. So you want to automate this. By the way, both this process and this process are pretty. This one is completely automated in ScoreCEO. It's set it and forget it, with especially if you're doing a multi-recurring revenue model. And a lot of these things are automated. Check to see if client paid, bingo, that's automated by Score. Importing the client, you can import the client's credit report. It can identify the accounts that are required disputes. It gives you example. If it's the first round, it'll give you the dispute reasons, and you can choose other dispute reasons on other incurring rounds based on what's left over, right? It won't print stuff envelopes, but if you're using ScoreCEO, one of ScoreCEO's dispute processing, that can happen automatically for you as well, right? ScoreCEO will automatically, upon disputing, whether you do the dispute or our outsourcing department does it for you, the notice of account update goes automatically. That gives them, if it's a first run, it tells them what just happened, and if it's any other round, it tells them what their progress was or not. Okay, and then the system waits 30 days to do it all over again. So this is pretty much all automated, right? Payment failed, completely automated as well. So once you've got systems that are documented, SOPs that are documented, right? You're gonna have clearer involvement with your team members, right? Your delegation is gonna become more fluid, because you're going to start seeing who can handle what, right? One of the biggest reasons why CROs fail is because they have an inability to delegate accordingly, because they get frustrated, and they get frustrated because all those processes are in their head and half of it is in paper, but it's not all there. You have to document. You have to be able to teach others to do what you do. If not, they'll never learn. It'll take them longer to learn. It'll be OJT 24/7. All right. You also need to be able to delegate through things to VAs, and delegate things to, let's say, outsourcing companies, right? Because if you don't, what happens is that you're going to be bound to your administrative process. If your dispute process isn't giving you the results that you expect, then you'll have more time to develop a better process, or audit the process of your outsourcing partner so you can tweak it so that it becomes successful, or more successful in your opinion, right? It'll allow you more time to analyze all the processes to document as the leader of the company. So delegating and outsourcing is absolutely paramount. An example of that is in ScoreCEO. One of the most basic things to do is to outsource your dispute processing. That is more important to small companies than it is to larger companies every day. And that's because larger companies can leverage revenue to hire personnel to do this for themselves, because they have an abundance of customers to dispute on. When you don't have those customers, you can, 1 month you can grow really quick, then ebb the next month, and then grow the next month and ebb for 2 or 3 months because you grew fast, and that ebb and flow is very erratic, and that's what happens to most of you, because you're either doing too much or doing too little, but you're not managing your business. What you're doing is you're working in your business. You're becoming an employee of your business, and yes, you are one. But you also want to be able to lead that business to growth so that you can scale it. This process, if you outsource this from the beginning, if you have that same scenario of 50 customers closed in a month, which would be fantastic for a small company, right? Or if you do 50 customers a month and you're spending on average, let's say 30 to 45 minutes just disputing the customer, that's an hour less a month. If you're one guy, you just spent on 50 customers about, let's call it 45 minutes to an hour, let's call it an hour, right? You've spent on that customer, acquiring them and disputing them and managing them and following up with them. If you add that for an hour per customer, you've just spent 50 hours doing that. If you spent 172 hours acquiring 50 customers, the next month now you have 50 hours less to acquire the same amount of more customers. And that's what you're expecting. You're basically spending less time to close more customers because you're working in the business and not on the business. So why would you stop from outsourcing when you can spend all of that outsourcing time on what I call high payoff activities, which is foraging for new customer relationships or referral partners or marketing strategies and closing them more effectively through processes that you have already established in your business. This is the biggest, the most important process, in my opinion, to either outsource or have somebody else do it for you inside of your business so that you can continue to grow your business as soon as you have a great month. Let's look at diversification and expansion, right? Scaling a business doesn't mean just adding more customers. Scaling a business is adding more customers, having the right processes in place that can be replicated with the personnel necessary to do that. Diversifying that business is including more products, right? Like credit monitoring. If you don't have credit monitoring right now, if you have no credit monitoring in your business, if you're not offering DIY credit repair programs in your business, if you're not offering credit builder loans, if you're not doing FCRA or FDCPA litigation, referring those customers, if you're not doing some sort of subscription management or credit card referral services or any other service that you provide, in addition to just the root of the problem, which is credit repair itself, you're leaving money on the table. If you spend $100 to acquire a credit repair client, and you sell just credit repair to them, it'll take you about a month or two to break even. If you sell more than one product, you'll do it in less time to break even with that customer and to achieve greater profitability, because you're using the same cost of your acquisition to sell multiple products to these customers. And the more products that you have to sell and promote to them, you can, and the more automated that you can promote these products to them with a system that lets you do campaign management, that's a perfect storm. That moves you towards business growth, which moves you to scalability. This is the same example we just discussed, right? We're discussing right now a business might offer alongside credit monitoring, rent reporting, credit builder programs, DIY, FCRA, tax prep referral programs, right? I mean, if you're not participating in one, look for a local tax guy that you can share customers with, and he can give you customers, right? That you can send customers that need his services, and they can send customers that need their services back to you, right? That sort of thing, right? These services help strengthen client relationships because you're keeping that same customer. You're providing them not just credit repair services, but they might have a referred tax prep guy that's doing it with them. They might have a rent reporting service that you've provided to them that you're getting paid for on a monthly basis. You're also making a small piece of revenue for your credit monitoring service. And all of these little incremental recurring revenue services are passive revenue that really don't create a lot of overhead or stress on your employees and or your partners or your VAs or your processing staff, and you'll make more money while investing less time associated to each one of those products. And that builds profitability, more profitability on the same customer. So some business also grow by expanding, right? When you're ready to expand, where are you going to expand? Well, why would you expand to California if you're not in California, right? Yeah, it's the biggest market, but it's going to cost you $100,000 bond and some other licensing fees, as well as doing your due diligence from a legal perspective, right? And then you have to change your contracts for the state of California because they're very prosumer, right? Why would you start in that state when you can start in New York, New Jersey, Alabama, and Florida that have no licensing and bonding requirements? Okay, that is the sort of thing that you want to pay attention to. There's probably more. Those are the ones that came to mind immediately, but focus on expanding to states that have the lowest cost of acquisition. So if licensing and bonding is specifically necessary for a state, why would you do that? Why would you start in a state that is going to have an associated cost to every sale when you have states that don't? That's my point, right? In ScoreCEO, you have a state compliance engine. If you're compliant in multiple states, you can enter all of your CRO bonding and licensing requirements, and it'll send for those customers in those states that you're legally licensed and bonded to do business with, in addition to the ones that you can do business with anyway because they have no licensing and bonding requirements. You can go ahead and send them automatically contracts that have the appropriate state compliance documents in the right font size, in the right font itself, with the right disclosures, in the way that the state wants it. And with states like California, they pay attention to things like that. So like I said before, the biggest bottleneck here are ourselves, right? I found myself doing this tons of time. I can imagine Jasmine when she was putting together this presentation. She would say, "Yeah, Joshua did this for about 4 years." I'm a micromanager. And I've learned to be less of a micromanager over time, and it has cost me opportunities and growth. I'm speaking to you from my heart. Don't make the same mistake. Don't be the bottleneck in your business. We are the ones, CROs, owners, are the ones that are holding our business back from growing. And it's because we don't know how to do something, or we need to trust a bit more in our partners, in our VAs, in our employees, and our contractors to be able to do so and manage them accordingly. The role of technology is to be able to take those processes, and once you've documented them and tweaked them, that you can manage them and automate them. And when you reduce, it's simple. You reduce the work, you maximize your investment of time, you increase your profitability throughout all of the facets of your business. It's simple. And that's what the role of the technology should help you do that. If your CRM is not helping you do that on all fronts, not only from the sales front, from the management of sales, from the workflow process, so you deliver a consistent experience on the sales side, that you deliver a consistent experience on the dispute processing and billing side and invoicing and payment side, that you can also customize and add diversify into other products that you can go ahead and send customized campaigns to your to your existing customers and to leads automatically, that you have portals that let both your referral agents send referral leads to you and manage those referral leads to you, as well as your consumers and leads having the opportunity to have their own codes to go ahead and send leads to you as well. If you don't have all of that, your technology is not playing the appropriate role in your business. And ScoreCEO can help you do that. ScoreCEO was designed to do that, to help you help credit bureau businesses structure their business into their own operations, right? To go ahead and use things like our sales pipelines, business KPI dashboards, automated lead client workflows, dispute process management engine, invoice and billing engine, campaign and communications engine, compliance built into the system, or processes, right? These things are going to help you to provide a repeatable, consistent way of doing business, and it's going to be easy to train your sales force, your processing staff, or just completely outsource the processing if you just don't want to pay in the acquisition space. Right? To begin scaling your business, you want to focus once again. First, adjust your pricing structures. Don't just offer one or two plans in your recurring revenue models. Offer 2 to 3 plans at a minimum. Okay, and have that service really be bound to the actual service that you're. Don't put things in your description of services that make no sense, like we delete or repair. We don't say that unless it's a pay-per-performance service, because all you're actually being paid to do is to send a letter on a monthly basis. You can't guarantee the results, because if you do, you can't charge until you've achieved said results. And if not, you're charging for services before performing them, and that's illegal at a federal level and on every state level. Okay, so you want to build, and the only way you can do that is to start documenting those processes, and so you can see where you stand, or complete those processes so that you can start delegating tasks and retrain members and hire VAs and hire contractors to decide what's taking up the most time in your business so that you can become profitable. Okay, ScoreCEO is the right tool to do that for you. Before we finish, I know that we're already on an hour here. I want to, in the next 5 minutes, Jasmine, can you go ahead, or Ms. Vida, go ahead and show on these 3 processes here, right? How this could be automated, how either the client sales and onboarding workflow can be automated in ScoreCEO, or is by default automated in ScoreCEO. How the dispute processing workflow is, and maybe the failed billing workflow as well. Any of two of those. I know that we're short on time. If you can go and share your screen, I'd highly appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, no problem. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, just let me know if you can see my screen.
I can see your screen. I hope everyone else can.
Okay, perfect. So one of the great things with ScoreCEO, besides having a lot of those things that we mentioned on the SOP, is different ways of leads coming into the system, which on our SOP there we had mentioned the web forms, but we're just not limited just to those web forms, right? We can also, like you mentioned before, have clients or have leads use special links in order to refer people over to you. So that's other ways that people can fall into the system. And with this example that I have here, I used one of those forms in order to put a lead into the system. The moment I did put someone into the system, like our lead over onboarding process, it talked about when someone gets in, how we can automate the email, the welcome email, and have the client do the TSR process. So I wanted to show you, right, an example as by just putting them in that form. And I apologize, I just had the email up, but they do get the email to activate their portal. And I apologize, I can't find it now, but they do get that email to activate their portal. In which once they do that, if we follow that SOP process, right, we'll be able to actually see what the client would see when they log in. So I'm going to give you an example of when they get that activation email that they could log in. And when they log in, they fulfill that TSR process, which they can add in their information themselves. They can add in their credit card information. They can uh, order their credit report, add in their credit monitoring information, upload their documents, right? They can really, this structure here, we can set it up to be completely where they can even schedule the appointment. So by doing this, this would complete that TSR process and would help avoid, violating that process. And again, this is a area that is customizable, but it gives that client that approach to be able to do those things on their own the moment that they put themselves into the system or request information from you.
Yeah, Jasmine, from a sales perspective as well, if your salespeople, and if you're the only salesperson, right, that gives you more time to speak to customers that are way down this process, right? And you're talking to customers that are ready to buy. They
Correct.
might not be ready to buy, right? They might not buy from you, right? But they're ready to buy because they've gone through they've invested their time to go ahead and get to the point of scheduling a call, right? And
Correct.
we have processes of these TSR processes because this is a banner in ScoreCEO. This can be completely
Mhm.
customized.
Right. So we tweak it right to your business, and how you really want your process to be in itself, right? It's not limited to what we see here. You can really elaborate on this to make it as seamless as it could possibly be. So if we go back and let me just log back in as the CRO. One of the other things that right helps with the the sales end and the SOPs would be the way that we have our workflow settings pre-set up for you, which again they're customizable. So if you look at mine and mine just look very different than yours, it's okay. It's just because I made mine's a little bit more customizable to the way that I like to read things and see things inside of my portal. But again, this flow was set up to help um, for example, my process to be a lot easier or to fit the business structure according to what I want to do, which there we would see that ScoreCEO provides workflow steps that allows you to kind of go through a checklist, but not just that. It allows you to complete the steps that you're in and then know where you're at during the process. So that's important when you're in the sales process because sometimes you're getting two or three, four, maybe five, 10 people coming in at a given time. And if it's just you, it's hard sometimes to keep track. It's easy when it's one or two, but once business starts growing, it becomes a little bit harder to manage or remember where you left off with each individual. So this helps maintain that structure. Um,
So let me add to this. So she's customized this page. I think there's probably about maybe 10 or 12 steps, right? But you can customize them. You can even put your own naming conventions on every step. But
Right.
where would you take the payment here, Jasmine?
So this one itself, I don't have one set up. So if we're going to take the payment, for example, I'm going to select the plan that
So
we
let me
and
show, this is just, I know, I'm asking a question that I know you know, right?
Mhm.
Go ahead and save that. And the payment step is not gonna appear on this until the customer has already either selected a plan and now the payment step appears. You see how we've built compliance? We're not even letting you go ahead and do that or trying to aid you in not taking money in advance of performing the services. So we don't even show you the payment step until you've got some sort of plan selected, and in conjunction to that, you can go ahead after that and on the same page add credit card information if you needed to, or ACH information.
Correct. So that would this how it would look when it's requesting for you to add the credit card information. And again, through the TSR process, that's something that you can add so the client can add that in on their end. So sometimes this may be already pre-filled if you have forms that are coming from your website with plans pre-selected, and they can come in, add their credit card information, their plan would be selected, and then this step would essentially already be completed if you set that up through your sales process. So that's something that also could definitely be done. Let's see here. So besides that, we have the customer dispute process, and which will allow you to also, like we mentioned, the SOP, you can import their credit report, you can create credit audit reports. The dispute instructions automatically are pre-assigned to each negative account, making it a lot easier for you to already have a predefined dispute instructions. And our dispute instructions here are factual dispute instructions because we do use the factual dispute methodology. So that helps to make sure that you're not using false statements like this account is not mine, it doesn't belong to me, it was paid as agreed. So we stay away from that verbiage, and we make sure that our instructions that are pre-assigned to these accounts fall under the line of the process that we work. So that's done pretty much essentially the moment that you import and confirm a report. And that's as simple as going, depending on the credit monitoring program that the client is using, it would be available here for you to import that report, and the report would show up for you under the credit report area. I don't have a credit monitoring, so I'm going to just do it manually just to show you how it would generate that automatic dispute instructions. And it's really just more auditing versus actually having to do manual work, that when you don't have a system in place, that's typically the main process, right? Doing it account by account, letter by letter. So I'm just going to grab my sample credit report that I have here and just import this, and we'll see that it doesn't just upload the report, it also identifies the accounts that potentially have negative information. That makes it 100 times easier for you when you're reviewing the accounts with your clients to really understand what's going on or what's wrong with it while you're doing your consultation process or review process with your client. So that can be fine. For example, if we go under the account area, anything that we see highlighted is what our system really understands that has something wrong with it based off of the guidelines that we've created for it, and it identifies that for you and highlights it so that way it could be easier for you to review. Not just that, it pre-selects it once you confirm the report as an account that requires verification, making sure that that account can be disputed. And so let's go ahead and let's confirm this credit report. I'm just going to confirm it with everything that the client has on the report, good and bad. And that's the good thing about doing that is that when you do that, when you create your credit audit report, that will help calculate the correct utilization ratio. So that way, when you do send out that credit audit report, it does provide that accurate information, which once you do the processing part, you'll see once you confirm a credit audit report will be pre-generated for you. So you're not writing anything down. You're not going account to account. Our system has already done that all for you, and it's just a matter of really understanding what the credit audit says, and understand how to explain it to your clients. So I always suggest just the homework that you have to do when you're using this report is really just reviewing it and understanding the sections that it brings and what it discusses and talks about. A lot of the stuff you probably already know, so it's just in a structured format to allow you to be able to review with them. Um, so here we would see that the report's already in here. So I want to show you how it predefines our dispute instructions automatically. So I'm just going to go ahead and select my negative account since I did save everything. And I want to show you how automatically it already gave me those instructions. So we'll see here every account that it's negative, it already has a predefined dispute reason that in reality, all you have to do is just make sure that this dispute instruction is what you're trying to um, tell the credit bureau regarding this account. Again, you're not limited to just using this. It's just making it a lot easier for you to already have something pre-selected. But you are more than welcome to search in our repository of dispute instructions and select your own or create your own at the moment. But if you like it, then you already have that step already completed and you can just continue on to the next one. But you will see that everything that's considered negative would have a dispute instruction pre-selected for you. Okay. Um, Now, from this point, it's basically creating the letters. The great thing about creating the letters is that it's as simple as, oh, and this one's a lead. So, unfortunately, with leads, it doesn't let you. And that's just going to help you because if you're just going straight through and didn't realize that maybe the customer hasn't even paid yet and you're going to create letters, it's going to stop you. So that's important because sometimes we get carried away and we're going through everything, trying to get everything, done for this person, or maybe, miscommunication between teams. We'll see that it's not even a customer yet, right? So with customers, and I'll just go into a customer so we can see. Here our system divides our customers. So I'll go into one that's had some disputes done. So I can show you the simplicity of just creating the letters, making it easy for you. So when we go into the create letter area, it's as simple as choosing your template, but the way that our system is built, it's that in our system we have over 150 templates that you could use. That's very overwhelming to even think, okay, how do I know which template to use? What we've done is we've broken it down to allow you to see the templates that can possibly be used per round. So if you have if there's specific letters that are just for round one and maybe just for round five, those letters are not going to appear here for you. That's just going to decrease the amount of letters that you're actually seeing to really be able to focus on the letters that could possibly be used. Okay, this just helps your processor do those disputes a lot quicker instead of having to navigate all of the letters. So it's as simple as choosing your letter, and the system will pre-select all of those negative accounts that were already added on from that credit report that was imported. And it's as simple as click and create, move to print. It's going to take it to the second phase where you can edit and audit anything that you want. So here it will allow you to make any changes if needed to that specific letter. If everything looks good and you don't have to change anything, then hey, great. Um, and on top of that, there's a lot of things that I remember that used to be done manually. For example, sending out monthly reminders to clients, telling them that their rounds were sent out, letting them know what items were deleted or repaired, right? Just giving that follow-up process. Maybe not just them, but also notifying your referring agents. That sometimes is a little bit time consuming because you have to sit down and gather all that information and do it. With the system, it will automatically send the client updates. So we have this little option here that will save and email what we call the notice of account updates. It's going to go to the client, but if there's a referring agent assigned to them, it will also go out to them. So they're going to understand what's going on and they're going to be getting these updates from you. So it's essentially you sending the update, but just automatic. So it's that time that you were investing or your team was investing, maybe sitting down for 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out or create that email, it's done automatically. And then we just print all, and then that's basically it. The letters are ready to be sent out to the printer and move forward. So I remember the original dispute process typically used to be you gather all the information, gather that report, gather all the accounts. A lot of times it was all manual, putting everything into a system or just writing it on a piece of paper and then doing this whole process. So now with systems like this, it just takes something that probably is going to take you an hour, drop it down to 15, 20 minutes. And if you outsource, then it's as simple as just adding the profile and sending it over to a team and and being able to delegate that job, so that way instead of spending 20, 30 minutes, now you're dropping it to maybe 5 or 10. So that pretty much covers on my end about the SOPs. Do you have any questions for me, Josh, or if I missed anything?
Well, not regarding what you were showing, but Michael Holmes is asking is can we go over the DIY product, how the DIY product would work? Is there a basic SOP for that? Um, Regarding the DIY product, if you can bring up the dispute armor screen somewhere, Jasmine, I'd appreciate that. While I go over this with dispute armor, the DIY product is something that you can either the process from a from a sales perspective is to see how the customer fares, whether they want to buy your service, and if they can't, downsell to a DIY product so that they can do it on their own, because they probably have already gotten credit monitoring. So the idea is to sell credit monitoring along with the DIY product, or change them over from just a credit armor to a dispute armor subscription, so that they can go ahead and start doing their own credit repair. The idea is monetize that customer even if you're not providing your normal credit repair services. So this is either a upsell or a downsell product, or you can use it as and add an SOP for customers that are getting off of your service, and they can go ahead, and if they have stragglers, right? Like normally credit repair customers don't stay on until everything is deleted. And that shouldn't be the expectation ever. But sometimes they get the accounts deleted to a place where they can buy or purchase what they need on credit. And so it's not done yet. If they want to go ahead and try to do it themselves, that's a great downsell product, so that they can continue to either monetize on after credit repair on a DIY product, or downsell them so that they can stay with the credit monitoring service as well. Did that answer your question, Michael? Awesome. All right, I don't have any other questions on this right now. There's a lot that we can go over, especially with onboarding customers. The payment that process that she just went through did a lot of things that just happened in the background, right? Printing the letters, sending the notice of account update, progressing the customer from one round to the next. That sort of thing. And also on the credit repair letters themselves, or on the credit letter generation screen itself, there you can see what service is the service that they have. So if you're the processor and you're tying the services in ScoreCEO, you create payment model plans. So not only do you have the service description, but you also have the way it's being charged, and you can specify whether you want, one credit reporting agency letter to all 3 credit reporting agencies, and 5 direct to creditor letters, because that's the service level that you contracted under that monthly recurring subscription. There is another place that you can do that as well. If you want more, to see more of this, and you're a customer already, or you're not a customer and you want to see more, just reach out to Jasmine on go to our chat, either in ScoreCEO on your free trial or directly on the website, and reach out to one of the customer satisfaction team, and they'll go ahead and schedule additional training or additional demoing if you need to. Okay. All right. I want to thank everybody for staying on the call. Let me just close and wrap up the webinar. Let me go. Our next webinar, Jasmine, can you talk about that? That is in about a month.
Yes, of course. So basically on our next webinar, we're going to be going over credit repair SEO, and it's really just understanding how you can rank on Google, how you should be creating your blogs, how you should really be presenting your website, right? But not just an SEO part, but also maintaining the compliance on your website. Because one thing is to rank, and the other thing is to make sure that you maintain that compliance that's needed. So it is going to be linked together, but we're really just going to be focusing on growing the business, but through your website.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll probably be, can you hear me, Jasmine?
Yes.
We'll probably be showing you some tools, right? Tools like Ahrefs, tools that we use to help our customers maximize their conversions and things of that nature as well. Once again, we have our weekly blog out. If you're looking at websites that you want to change themes on and you already have one of our themes, remember that you can change the theme once a year. If you want to do that, just reach out to the team. If you don't have a pre-built website or have one of our custom sites, go ahead and reach out to the team via the chat as well. If you're interested in outsourcing, as Jasmine can explain that to you, or Javier, or anybody else in the office can do that, as well as ScoreCEO. You want to have that on call and make sure you have all of ScoreCEO. So if you're not sure, schedule a call and see if you have access to all of ScoreCEO, which was opened up for everyone. That's with ScoreCEO and dispute processing. But if you don't have dispute processing and you need to take a look at it temporarily, we can open it up for you. We have SEO services. If you want to discuss those, you can reach out and book anytime with Jasmine, and she'll get the appropriate personnel on that as well. Once again, NACSO is the National Association of Credit Service Organizations. Join. If you're not a member, you should be. You can't complain if the government goes ahead and does whatever they want with us, because we can't initiate our lobbyists. So please remember that NACSO is probably the only real association in the space that actually lobbies and has a track record for lobbying it. Greenspoon and Marder, Robbie Birnbaum is counsel to NACSO, and there's a lot of what I call OGs that are working, the original credit repair companies. They're the ones that are managing the National Association of Credit Service Organizations, like Donna Perkins and Sandy Northrup. And these are people that have been in the space since 2005. So there's a lot to learn from those companies, what to do and what not to do. All right. So it's very simple to start. There's a $100 discount on the start fee, and per month the monthly fee is based on the workers that you have. So thank you once again for being on the webinar this month. And don't miss out on next month. It's going to be really interesting, so you guys can learn how to really maximize your revenue by attracting more customers, and by maximizing your ability to be searched upon based on keywords analysis and everything SEO related on your website. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.